So yes, dear students, this is voice note number 3. We are discussing balance of payments. Now we come to categories of balance of payments. So different items in the balance of payments can be grouped in different categories. So we have three major categories in the balance of payments account. Number one is balance of trade. Then we have balance of current account, and then balance of capital account. So these are the three categories. Balance. Now you should be thinking, what do we mean by the word balance? So balance means difference between sum total of credit items and sum total of debit items, that is net credit. So I think it is quite easy. So let's take one by one. So we start with balance of trade. So we know in trade either we export or we import. So balance of trade shows the balance of imports and exports of, you remember we had discussed visible goods. So balance of trade shows the balance of imports and exports of visible goods. So balance of trade need not balance if a country exports more goods than it imports, it has a favorable balance. It is very easy to understand. When we are exporting more, exporting means our credit balance would be more. So we'll be receiving more and giving less. When we are importing, we are giving our currency. So we need to export more and import less. When we would study how to balance the disequilibrium, so dear students, the whole ideology would be less of import. Any country, the main basic idea is they should export more, import less. So technically this should be the ideology of all the countries. They have to increase their manufacturing strength so that they can feed their own country as well as they can export the surplus. So favorable balance means we are exporting more and importing less. So unfavorable balance of trade means deficit in the balance of trade. For example, if India exports goods worth rupees 6500 crore and imports good value 8000, so we have exported 6500 crores and imported 8000 crores. So it is understandable that we are actually importing more. For a favorable balance, we should export more. So in this situation, we have a deficit in the balance of trade of 1500 crores. So this is very easy, dear students. So balance of trade is equal to export of goods minus import of goods. In this situation, export was 6500 minus import, that was 8000 crores. So we have a deficit, that is minus 1500 crores. So this is deficit minus. Now let's try and understand balance of current account. So balance of current account is made up of visibles, invisibles and transfers, which we have already discussed. So when we discuss current account, so current account measures all payments made for country for the currently produced goods and services plus non-trade flow of funds between a country and rest of the world. Now what do you mean by non-trade flows? So non-trade flows comprise flow of factor incomes, please dear students, like interest, profits, wages, and unilateral international transfers. So, when we talk about balance of current account, we try to show the difference between export and import of goods and services and net unilateral transfers. Since transfers are relatively an unimportant item, therefore balance of current account refers to the balance of imports and exports of goods and services, and also I am repeating this, including factor services. So factor services, it is made up of mainly trade balance and invisible balance. So it means the balance of current account. Okay. The invisible balance shows the difference between the value of imports and exports of services or invisible items. So when we are talking about invisible balance, so we will take the invisible items. So invisible item is generally services. So when we say invisible, we simply understand services and factor incomes. The services may be traded like shipping, insurance and banking, and capital service items like interest and dividend incomes. So balance of current account is equal to balance of trade plus balance of invisibles plus balance of transfers. Now we come to balance of capital account. So here we will study the concept of autonomous capital flows and accommodating flows. So dear students, get ready, it's very easy concept, nothing to worry. So balance of capital account refers to the balance of capital transfers. So again we know balance is basically the difference between the two sides of debit and credit. Okay. So here we already know when we are receiving foreign currency, it is credit side. When we are uh, giving our currency, it is debit. So balance of capital account refers to the balance of capital transfers. These are being repeated again and again. So capital transfer, what do we mean by capital transfer? When we borrow or we lend, okay, so capital means we are borrowing or we are lending, borrowing from abroad or lending to abroad. So this is simple borrowing and lending. But one more thing, if we are purchasing or selling assets, okay, in accounts also we know balance sheet items and profit and loss items. So when we are talking about capital account, basically capital account is like balance sheet. So we are discussing about sale and purchase of assets. We are discussing about sale and purchase of gold. We are discussing about sale and purchase of foreign exchange from other countries. So now you know what exactly we mean by capital account. So it is the difference between rows 5 and 10 in table 15. You know the table. You should write, okay. Every student please write 1 to 10, the credit and the debit side, the current account and the capital account. So there are two types of capital flows included in the capital account. So we know the capital account is the flow. One type is autonomous capital flow. What do we mean by autonomous? Basically, they are simple, ordinary capital flows. Okay. These flow take place because of normal economic considerations or motives like earning of profits, dividends, interest, and other incomes by international investment. So, autonomous capital flow you should try to simply relate with, if I have invested some money abroad, my investment will definitely give me some interest or some dividend or some profit. So if I have invested in a company, that is going to give me profit. If I have invested in a share, that is going to give me dividend. International investment, I have invested in America's company, okay, so I get profit. If I've invested in shares, I get dividend. If I've invested in some foreign bond, I get interest by international investment. So if you made an international investment, so autonomous capital flow, it's automatic, you will get some flow from the international investment. For instance, if Americans are undertaking investment in India, they are doing this with the objective of earning profits, dividends, etc. So autonomous capital flow is very clear. Now let's come to accommodating flows. Accommodating flows. These flows have to be made specifically to bring the balance of payments into equilibrium. Uh, can you accommodate one more person in the bus? You're going for a picnic. No, no, the bus is full. Please, please, please try to accommodate. So basically, when we are talking about accommodating flows, we are trying to bring something into equilibrium. For example, if there is a deficit in the current account, now this deficit will have to be settled by an accommodating capital inflow. We have a deficit. So when we say we have a deficit in the current account, what exactly do we mean? We mean that we have to pay more of the foreign currency. We could not get much of the foreign currency and we have to pay more, like in the previous example where it was minus 1500 crores. So we have to pay, it is a deficit balance. Now, from where are you going to pay? The deficit will have to be settled by an accommodating capital inflow. So you need this 1500 crores, right or wrong? In the current account, you have a negative balance. So to bring in the balance, this will be settled by accommodating capital inflow. So kahin na kahin se paisa mangwao, correct? So you did lot of trade. So the trade balance is minus 1500 crores. Now it is getting the money. You did small trades, 5 crore trade, 10 crore trade, and the entire total, you exported, you imported. Now the entire total is minus 1500 crores. So now the total figure you have, the current account is stating that it is minus 1500 crores. So now we need an accommodating flow. So capital inflow which will bring the balance of payments into equilibrium, basically minus 1500 in the capital account. So you get somewhere, you get some money plus 1500. So now it is equilibrium means zero. Balance of current account and balance of capital account are interrelated. A deficit on current account must be settled by a net surplus on capital account. So the idea is very clear. It's like children spending the money and then papa trying to manage. Okay, dear children, don't worry. It is minus 1500 crore. Your papa will try and manage something and do something. The foreign currency necessary to finance the excess imports. So it is very clear when we are into a deficit balance, we have done an excess import. So now this excess import which we have done, and let's say we are sitting in minus 1500 crore. So we need to balance this. So when we are trying to balance this, we need foreign currency. So who will finance the foreign currency? How will you balance this minus 1500 crore? So in this situation, you can either borrow, you borrow from some other country, okay, or be provided by the government out of its reserve. Either you are borrowing from an external country or the government is providing that minus 1500 crores out of its reserve of gold and foreign exchange. So government keeps some reserve of gold and foreign exchange. Now this balance, either you borrow from some other country or the government has to intervene and provide out of the reserves of gold and foreign exchange. Similarly, a surplus in the current account must be matched by a deficit in the capital account. So, in situation if you have a deficit in the capital account, but luckily you this time you exported quite high, so the deficit in the capital account, if you have a positive or a surplus current account balance, so similarly you can balance it. So, balance of payments, if we just sum up, it is the most comprehensive concept. It includes total debits and credits relating to all items on account on which a country makes payments to and receive payments from rest of the world. So, this is just the summary. I am reading from your textbook Frank ISC Economics. You can also follow that. It is the sum total of balance of current account and balance of capital account. So, this is also quite clear. In the accounting sense, balance of payments is always in equilibrium. This is a very important situation. In the accounting sense, balance of payments is kept in the form of standard double entry bookkeeping system under which each international transaction undertaken by residents of a country is shown on both sides, which results in debit and credit of equal amount. An export is credited for the movement of goods, the payment for that export in the form of acquisition of foreign currency or gold or investment made abroad out of this export is shown as debit. The recorded worth of both the product sold and foreign currency received is exactly the same. In theory, therefore, the balance of payment is always in equilibrium. In actuality, however, balance of payments may be normally in deficit or surplus. So, theoretically it will be in equilibrium, but in actuality the balance of payments may be normally in deficit or surplus, as we just discussed. Here we refer to the balance of current account or balance of capital account. Balance of current account is normally in deficit or surplus. For instance, India has been mostly facing deficit in current account. India has been mostly facing deficit in current account. This is not a good news for our country. Why should we face deficit? That means we are importing more and exporting less. Similarly, capital account, excluding accommodating flows, may also be in surplus or deficit. We have understood accommodating flows. So, we have to exclude accommodating flows, because accommodating flows is like an adjustment. Once we know okay, we are in deficit, so now we need that accommodating flows. So, autonomous flow is like the automatic flow, but accommodating flow is like, okay, bacha party, you do the picnic, you spend the money, in case of any deficit, come to papa. So, accommodating flow means after all your picnic has been done and now you are in loss or a deficit, so papa will help you. Thus, while specific categories of balance of payments can have surplus and deficit, the overall value must be in balance. Accommodating capital flows, as explained above, are made to bring the balance of payments in equilibrium. So, in the fill in the blanks, you should, if you get which flows brings the balance of payment in equilibrium. So, accommodating flow would be the answer, dear friends. So, accommodating flow is like the dad giving you the assurance, don't worry, I am there. In case of deficit, I will make sure that it is balanced. So, we stop here today. Next day we will start balance of payments disequilibrium. Okay. Basically, disequilibrium is simply either it is deficit or surplus. Favorable is surplus, deficit, and then we will try to understand the causes of adverse balance of payments. Okay. So, adverse balance of payments, that means it's somewhere deficit, somewhere export is less, import is more, and we need to understand why the export is less. Okay. So, we'll try to cover approximate 10 points. This is very important. Next day we will discuss causes of adverse balance of payments. Okay. Just tell you the 10 points and then I'll discuss elaborately in the next class. Adverse balance of payments basically means that we are exporting less. So, fall in foreign demand, point number one. If the demand has fallen in the foreign country, they are not demanding, so we are not exporting. Inflationary pressures in the economy. Inflationary pressure has caused rise in prices. Okay, so we'll study it in depth. Then developmental expenditures, increase in cost structure of export industries. So basically, if the prices are higher, it becomes difficult. Decrease in supply, appreciation in exchange rate, increased debt burden, demonstration effect, population pressure, political factors. So these 10 points we need to study in depth. These are very important. You might get some small questions. So these 10 points we need to study, but as a student you might be asked a big question. What are the causes of adverse balance of payments? So you need to write at least 8 points. If in the book you have 10 points, you need to be ready with at least 8 points. And simultaneously we need to understand what we can do, what measures we can take to correct the disequilibrium in the balance of payments. So there are corrective measures. So those corrective measures are 9. So let me just have a reading for that. So these are just the fine prints, the fine points. Measures to correct disequilibrium in the balance of payments at a glance: depreciation, devaluation, import control, export promotion, exchange controls, production of import substitutes, monetary policy, fiscal policy, capital import. So all these measures, these are the 9 measures. When we want to correct the disequilibrium, so all these correction, they will have one particular aim. They would aim at less import. All these measures, the target would be make certain policies where the country, let's say where India imports are reduced and there is a boost in export. So whenever we are discussing balance of payments, dear students, just keep one thing in mind. We want to earn more and more foreign currency. So you can earn more and more foreign currency only if you export, or let's say India becomes a tourist hub. All over the world, people would like to come and visit India. So maximum people, if they come and visit India, so foreign currency will come in India. So how we can tweak the monetary policy, the fiscal policy, the capital import, the import control, devaluation, depreciation, export promotion, exchange control, production of import substitutes. So these methods would keep only one thing in focus: how we can reduce the import, how we can maximize the export. So I think you can also study, uh, you can read, and any question you can just ask me via WhatsApp. And the next topic would be the foreign exchange rate. Foreign exchange is a very simple concept, just simple reading would help you out. If I have to pay $10, so there is a market exchange rate, and if $1 is 75 rupees, so I have to pay 75 into 10. Now imagine a situation: I have purchased a bag for $100 and $1 is 75 rupees. So when I have purchased, the dollar rate was 75 rupees. So I have to pay 7500. But imagine the dollar rate has shot up and gone to 80 rupees. So the same bag which was costing me 7500 rupees will now cost me 8000 rupees. So what do you think, dear students? When the rate of the foreign currency fluctuates, will the importer benefit or the exporter benefit? It is a very simple situation. Now let's analyze it. If I am an importer and I have imported a bag which is costing rupees $100 to me, and similar example, I am an exporter and I am exporting a bag, let's say, which I am exporting at $100. Now there are two situations. Let's say 75 rupees and 80 rupees. So when I am an importer, $100 at the rate 75 rupees, since I am importing, I have to pay, so I will pay 7500 rupees. But if the dollar price is increased, I will have to pay 8000 rupees. In this situation, if the import gets costly for me, I will try to reduce my imports, because finally I have to sell the bag in the country. Previously, I was buying the bag at 7500 rupees and I was, let's say, selling the bag at 8000 rupees. Now, since the rate of the foreign currency has fluctuated, now I am paying 8000 rupees to buy that bag. But when I want to sell it for 8500, the people in India would say, "Ore, last week you were selling the same bag for 8000 rupees. Now in 1 week's time you have increased the price to 8500." And then I will say, "Oh, you don't know, the price of dollar has fluctuated." No. So who is going to be interested in the price of dollar getting fluctuated? So whenever the price of dollar, if the Indian currency's power gets reduced, like $1 you are getting for 75 rupees, now $1 you are getting for 80 rupees. So basically Indian currency is becoming weak. So when the Indian currency becomes weak, importing becomes a difficult situation. Import becomes costly. In the similar fashion, now $1 is equal to 80 rupees. I was an exporter, so I was expecting to receive 7500 rupees by exporting a particular bag. But now when I will be receiving $100, that value is 8000 rupees. In this situation, when the currency from 75 rupees to it has come to 80 rupees, so now net I will be getting 8000 rupees. So I can also do one thing, I can increase my export, by reducing some price. So instead of $100 I was selling the bag, I can give a discount. Okay, come on, I will price it at $99, because my expectation was 7500 rupees, but now I am getting 8000 rupees. So dear students, this is very easy foreign exchange rate system. Just read, ask me anything, or just wait. I'll try to complete this chapter in the next voice note by a simple explanation which will help you all. So thank you so much. Bye bye. Love you all.